Hi guys, this is Tim and welcome to The Cheap Shot. On this episode, I will actually be hearing from you guys. I posed a question about a week or so ago. What is it to you? What does photography mean to you? And I thought it would be a really good experiment because I follow so many different types of photographers. Some of the people I follow have only been shooting for a little while. Some are amateur photographers, some are professional, some have been shooting for years, and also all different styles of photographers as well. So I follow, sort of nature and wildlife photographers, portrait, fashion, automotive, night photographers, landscape, you name it. I follow loads of different people, loads of different styles of photography, and also people that shoot in various formats. So although the majority of the time I'm either using a digital camera or my iPhone, I do follow people that shoot only with iPhone or only with smartphones. I follow people that shoot only film, and I follow people that shoot digital, and some people obviously shoot various formats. So I thought it'd be really great to get that question out there. What is it to you? What does photography mean to you? And I must admit, I've had such great responses from this. Really a lot better than I thought I would. So I'm going to now play the responses that I've got from you. Some are video, some are audio, and obviously everyone that's contributed, I am going to put their details in the notes below. So whether you're viewing this as a YouTube video or listening to it as the podcast, the details will be in the notes below. So have a look, and I think it'd be really great if we could all, some people I follow you necessarily wouldn't do. So I think it would be great to introduce you all to different people as well that you may not be following that produce some really great work. So I think it's been a fantastic experiment. I'm going to show you through all of the replies that I've had now.
So, hi everybody, my name's Andrew Walmsley, aka Vlogger. I'm predominantly a medium format film shooter, and I also do bits of digital. I tend to love shooting with old cameras on the few that I have. Most of this is probably oriented around working with new models, amateur models. I love architecture. It's one of my favourite things. If I go to a city, I love looking out for modernism, that sort of thing. But I'm passionate about most types of photography, including things like street as well. That's probably where I started. So yeah, I live in the UK, and over to answer this lovely question for you all. Well, first of all, I need to say thank you to Tim for asking me this, and obviously people like yourself. It's not the easiest question. It might sound a very simple, open-ended question, but I think that's the problem. So to try and answer what is photography to me, I would say it's life, passion, drug, therapy, and a hobby. And I do talk about this myself, actually. I think about photography all the time. I write about it. I take a photo and podcast about it. And it's also a way for me to learn a creative skill, but more importantly, probably to teach others as well. It's another medium I express myself, whether it's through a chemical process or a digital one, but it all has the same meaning. And it's brought me together with some like-minded people around the globe, and I'm thankful for meeting so many great people, to be honest. So yeah, I hope that's okay. Not an easy question to answer.
Hi, I'm Dave Mihaly. I'm a photographer from Central Ohio in the United States. You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and Twitter as The Old Camera Guy. Photography for me is a way to capture moments in time. I'm an optometrist by trade, so I know that literally and figuratively, no two people's eyes are exactly the same. Everybody sees the world differently. Now, your gear, your camera, your lens can definitely influence your photography, but ultimately what matters most is your vision. Photography offers me a way to share my vision with the world.
Hello, my name's Mark Templeton, and I follow Tim actually on Instagram. So he asked me to put a few words together about the sort of photography I enjoy and what I use. Well, I just use my iPhone. It's an iPhone 11 Pro, so it's the latest one to come from Apple. And I just find it exceptional. The camera on there is absolutely fantastic. What I really like about it is the fact that you can zoom out, so you can get a really good perspective on stuff. And I just take pictures of anything that suits me, whether I'm out on a little walk or just day-to-day life. I'm not one for selfies, so you won't see many selfies on my Instagram feed, but I certainly like just capturing stuff. Buildings in particular I really like. I love architecture and just anything that's scenic, nature, anything at all really. I just tend to just pull out the phone and take a picture. It's as simple as that. I'm like Tim. I don't believe that you need to spend thousands and thousands of pounds on expensive camera equipment at all. I mean, my phone would have been quite pricey, I guess, but it's on a contract with O2, so I don't know what the cost of it is, but it's quite expensive, I guess, for a phone. However, the camera makes it all worthwhile. It really does. It's something quite spectacular that Apple pulled out the bag with this one, I think.
Hi, my name's Rachel from Little Vintage Photography and the Sunny 16 podcast. And Tim asked me to put together a little bit of an audio clip just to say what photography means to me. And I would say photography for me is a chance to share my passion with other people. I love educating other people, showing people how to take on analog photography without it being scary, try new things, go out and shoot with cameras, experiment with images that they can get. Those happy accidents that you get with analog for me are super important, and just that there's a particular kind of charm, I think, to analog photography, that it's soft and warm, and that actually it's all about the imperfections of life. Life's not perfect, so for me photography to me is capturing a sense of realness, I suppose, and yeah, that's why I do what I do.
Hi there.
Thanks very much.
My name is Tony Pirtle. I am a landscape and nature photographer here in East Texas. The question was presented to me, what photography means to me. And that is a question that has multitudes of answers, but I guess the most important response that I could give to that was, aside from the creative outlet aspect of it, photography has reconnected me with something that I used to enjoy when I was younger, especially back in my childhood. When I was younger, I used to spend nearly all of my time playing out in the woods and looking at wildlife and, just building little tree forts, what have you. But I always enjoyed it. I always remember how peaceful it was out there. And over a course of time, growing up and getting older, I strayed away from that. And when I got into photography, it slowly started pulling me back out here where I originally started out early in life. And so that is what it means to me. It is a sentimental connection that I have with my childhood. Also, it allows me to capture things that people don't necessarily get to see all the time, and I get to share that. And that's also another part of it that I thoroughly enjoy, and it means a lot to me. So thank you, Tim, for sending me the question and the email. I hope you're having a good day, and I hope everybody else is doing the same. Thank you again.
Thank you, Tim. Thanks for asking me the question. When you asked me, Tim, I realised that I don't really have a short answer, but I'll give you a couple of reasons anyway why I love photography. I suppose first of all, for me, it's all about family memories. My father, he loved photography as well, and we used to use Nikon cameras. Of course, back in the 70s and 80s, it was film cameras, and we had a Nikon FM2, and the whole process really of shooting 36 snaps and then waiting for those shots to arrive in the post after they'd been printed was quite exciting. My dad took thousands and thousands of photos, and I've now inherited those. I've probably got somewhere in the region of 10,000 odd snaps, which I'm gradually working my way through, scanning and sharing these to family on Flickr. They're mainly sort of family snaps of holidays, birthdays and Christmas times. So that's the first reason, really, about family memories. Second reason I'd say is I love photography, is it allows me to be creative. I think throughout my life I've often been told that I'm not that creative. In fact, I am my own worst critic, and I've always told myself many times that I'm not very creative. You see, I'm probably a natural introvert. But through street photography, I think it gives me the opportunity to be creative, because I'm looking for those chance encounters, those random incidents that you see on the street, and you have to observe the world going by to capture good shots. So prior to COVID-19, I'd started a project called 100 Strangers, in the vein of Brandon Stanton's Humans of New York. And you see, for me, I'm trying to, this project I'm doing is to use the camera as a passport to go up to strangers and have, not just take a photograph, but to have a conversation, learn a bit about somebody, and make a portrait. So photography gives me the opportunity to meet total strangers, be creative, never stop learning, and to document all those moments. I mainly use Flickr, also Instagram. On Instagram, I am, it's one word, Paul Clarke Street Photography. That's Clarke with an E. Paul Clarke Street Photography. Thank you.
Hi, my name's Sophie. I take pictures for Sophie's Eye, very much an amateur photographer. I started taking pictures because I used to go to places and I'd get back with my photos and they never captured the vibrancy of what I'd seen with the naked eye. So I just became more interested in it, learned how to take a better photo and then edit them so that they captured the vibrancy of what I'd seen. And then I went through a really bad patch in my life and I decided to take a photo a day. So that made me think outside the box in terms of what photos I could take, because I'd try and take one really good photo every day. And then I'd look back through my week or my year and I'd think, do you know what, my life's not that bad, because each photo, doesn't matter how long ago I took it, I can remember exactly where I was standing when I took that photo. And I looked back over my year of photos and I thought, do you know what, my life's not that bad. So it started off very much as a hobby, also because I owned a black dog and photos of him never came out. He always just looked like a black blob. So I also became interested in capturing him because it's really difficult to take a good photo of a black dog. And now I get paid occasionally for taking event photos for the local council. So it's turned from a hobby, and it's I wouldn't say it's so I get some paid work from it as well, which is obviously a complete bonus. But having said that, it takes a bit of the joy out of it when there's real pressure, when you're on a mission. So actually I don't fully appreciate the fact that I've got paid work, because it's slightly spoilt my joy of photography in a way as well. So there's a slight downside to that. Anyway, that's what I've got to say on photos. Thank you very much. Bye.
Hello, my name's Lucy, and I run an Instagram account called Tired from Whitstable. I've been asked just to talk a little bit about me and what photography, what taking pictures means to me. So I'm from Whitstable in Kent. I'm a mum, I work, and I take an awful lot of pictures that I share to my Instagram account. I would say that photography means a huge amount to me. It's something that I do as a passion, as a pleasure, hobby, but it's also something that's very much tied into my mental health. So I go out to take pictures because I find it very calming, and it helps to cheer me up, because I like to take pictures of things that I think are beautiful and happy, positive pictures. I take a lot of pictures of the world around me, nature, love flowers, love a good view, love discovering new places to take pictures, and I love just spending time out in nature, snapping away on my phone. I don't have a camera, and they actually scare me a little bit. Most people laugh when I say that. I love how pictures, how photography can capture moments in time that can be shared forevermore. It sounds a bit naff, I know, but memories from when I was younger of going through my mum's photo albums, of enjoying pictures of her when she was young, seeing what the world was like, just fascinated me. And I love looking back even on pictures that we've taken of the children, of my husband, you know, our wedding, holidays that we've been on, even just a couple of years later. And it's amazing when you look at a photograph just how much more you can remember about that experience. I appreciate there's a really big argument for not taking the picture and actually putting the camera or the phone down. But I feel like I get the best of both worlds, because I snap the picture for the memory forevermore, but I also try and savour the moment as much as I can. And I think that that's a really important part of photography. It's not about making it stressful, making it sort of forced. I like to just take pictures of what's there and in front of me at the time. I think that makes them quite a lot more special as well. I love the fact that one day my children or their children will look back on photographs that we've taken now and smile, and they'll be that, like I was when I was younger, and looking at pictures of my family growing up, you know, members of the family that weren't with us anymore, and occasions that I wasn't at but felt like I was a part of. And one of the things that I love the most about being able to print photographs is our fridge. We have a big fridge, and the doors are covered in photographs. Happy memories, pictures I've taken, pictures that I'm in, you know, pictures of the kids, pictures of us all together as a family. And every time any of us opens the fridge, we're always reminded of those happy times. And there's not a day that goes by that someone doesn't open the fridge and says, oh, do you remember that day? You know, wasn't it funny? And oh, look at so-and-so. And just sort of really evokes that happiness that photography brings me. I can't actually think of any reason that I would stop taking pictures. It's just something that I enjoy, and I love the fact that I've met so many like-minded individuals and can share in sort of their love and passion for photography as well. I was really honoured to be asked to talk a bit about what photography means to me today, and I hope that I learn a lot about other people listening to what it means to them and why. So thank you so much for listening.
Hello, my name's Stephen. I'm a photographer and filmmaker, and have been since 1986. Why do I love photography? Photography literally saved my life. In 86, there was mass unemployment, and I was growing up in West Belfast at the height of the Troubles. It wasn't a great place to grow up, and it wasn't a great time to grow up. I was 19, and depression was getting the better of me. I'd left school with 0 qualifications, but I always remember my art teacher saying, Stephen, you're creative at something, you've got to find what you're creative at. I used to argue with my dad all the time. He would say that Sunday Times was better than the Observer because the Sunday Times had employed Don McCullen. I used to say Don McCullen left, and Jim Bowen, one of the greatest portrait photographers of our time, was working for the Observer. And we would always argue about photography. When depression did take hold, I tried taking my life. Thankfully, the rope broke. When the rope broke, I hurt my leg, and I couldn't get up. About 10 minutes after struggling to get up, my mum came and she found me. She was quite distraught. The next day, she came home, and out of her shopping bag, she pulled out a book. John Hedgecoe's Introduction to 35mm Photography. She practically threw it at me and told me to use the camera in the cupboard. Pathetically, I said, I've no film. And she threw a roll of Ilford HP4 36 exposures at me. And I picked up the camera. This camera. My first camera. It no longer works, but it's my most treasured possession. A few days later, saw an ad in the paper looking for unemployed photographers. Within a few months, as part of an exhibition. And from then, I've been working as a photographer and filmmaker, and also as a lecturer in photography, film production, and film theory, and film history. Currently, my camera of choice for street photography is this, my iPhone. Digital photography has now democratized artistic and creative freedom. We are now a planet of cultural storytellers, of photographers, of gatherers of history, information, and storytelling. Each camera, no matter what, is unique. Its user is unique, and each photograph it is taken is unique. Even though they all might look the same, some of them, each exposure, each time a button is pressed, they're all completely different. They're like fingerprints. One of the other things I love about photography is it gives me a chance to express how I see the world and to show it to others. And I also like to see how others see the world and they express it to me and to other people. Photography is now made us a planet of storytellers, of artists, and of creative people. Photography is one of the ultimate expressions of art.
Hi, I'm Graeme from the Sunny 16 podcast. Over the years, what photography means to me has really grown from the initial stages where it was just a way of somebody with zero artistic talent being able to create pictures that I quite liked sometimes. It grew into a way to meet people with similar interests and passions to me, and obviously through the podcast that's grown, and I've been introduced to and met so many fabulous people and spoken to so many fabulous people that's just been amazing in its own right. But when I think about what photography at its absolute heart means to me, what brings me the most joy, it's when I have the time to really sit and focus on it. And I think it's a almost like meditation for me. It's the closest I'm going to get to meditation as somebody who's not great at sitting still and doing nothing. The fact that it requires your full attention to do it well. And I think in some ways that's why I've moved, and I did move to using analog stuff, because that requires more attention and there's more faffing around. But to be just solely focused on what you're doing and to be paying so much attention to the thing that you're focused on and to really appreciate what you're looking at in a way that we never find time to do. We blitz through life, barely giving anything a second glance. But when we're engaging with photography, you stop and you really look at things. And I think that's fantastic. I mean, obviously, it's not always like that. There are plenty of times when I grab a camera and I go out and I'm just, I need to take some pictures. I'm going to take some pictures. Click, click, click. And it's not as satisfying to do. And the end results are never as satisfying. But on those rare hours where I can just go out on my own with a camera and give the process and the subject matter my full attention, it's incredibly rewarding, and I always come back feeling energized but calm and just very satisfied with the way I spent my time. So yeah, I think that's what photography means to me. It is my form of meditation.
Hi, my name's Gary Atkins. I'm 32 and I'm a Kent-based photographer. My go-to photography is woodland and nature. I've done a bit of landscape and seascape in my past 2 years. Photography to me is my way of releasing stress, really. I sit behind a computer screen for 10 hours a day, so when I do get the chance to take some photos, this is my way of relaxing. Thanks for listening, Gary.
My name's Stewart McKeown and I'm a landscape photographer from Canterbury in Kent. To me, photography is my way of being creative and sharing my vision with other people. I find it's a great motivator to get out of the house and experience the outdoors whilst chasing the light and finding that view.
Hi, this is Eric at Conspiracy.of.Cartographers. Someone once said that art is what you can get away with. This isn't true, but photography allows me to get away with a lot of shit I wouldn't normally be able to do. For instance, photography has given me a podcast, All Through a Lens, shameless plug. I have other interests, Tolkien, hiking, food, I guess, but I wouldn't do a podcast about those things. I mean, I could, but I wouldn't. Photography is also a reason to travel. Sure, you can travel without photography, but I really can't picture it. It's a reason to linger on a trail or to spend a little too long roaming around an abandoned house. It's also a reason to meet people. Before becoming a photographer, I never met anybody. Now, after picking up a camera, I know 3, maybe even 4 people. It's pretty impressive. I've always had a camera, most people do. Whether it's their phones or a cheap old point and shoot, almost everybody has a way to capture that coveted sliver of light or whatever. But when you call yourself a photographer, everything changes. Suddenly those same photos take on a new meaning. Those gray heavy clouds become ominous. Those images of yourself accidentally reflected in a window are symbolic of finding your true inner self. It's about perspective, and if you perceive yourself as an artist rather than just some guy who takes pictures, that makes all the difference in the world. The idea that, as photographers, as artists, we must create art to survive is, I think, a little self-important. It's a little overdramatic. I'd rather see it as something I enjoy doing. I like to take photos. I like to develop film. I like to share my work. I like people telling me that they enjoy it too. I could stop and maybe pick up another hobby, maybe model railroading or creating the largest ball of twine, and perhaps feel just as fulfilled. But I'm not doing that because to change is to make an effort, and I'm kind of lazy. So I'm a photographer by choice. And photography means that I'm not bored, which is almost the same thing as not being boring. And I'm okay with that. I'm also okay with being boring, which is probably why I usually shoot alone. Maybe for me, photography is a wall which allows me the privacy and solitude I crave. Hey Eric, some imaginary person might say, you want to go on a road trip? Sure, I'd reply, but I'm bringing a shit ton of cameras. And suddenly, the requests for my companionship fizzle away, leaving me in the warm embrace of a blue sky, brown grasses, a camera, and a bag full of film.
How you doing? I'm Sean Allen, rambled with my camera on YouTube, Instagram and Facebook, and also the podcast. What does photography mean to me? Well, it's very, very simple. It's fun. And it's one of the major part of my life and has been for probably 34, 35 years. Why I love it so much, it means that every single day is different. Now I shoot mainly street photography and social documentary photography, but I've also done press in the past. But basically when I'm walking down the street, I could be walking down that street 10 times in a day, or I walk down that same street every day. But every day is different as a photographer because simply you're looking for photographs, you're looking for something different. And as an optimist, you don't know what you're going to come across, so basically you're always waiting on that photograph. You don't know what you're going to encounter around the next corner. So I love it. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Now, I always say that we're capturing the present so those in the future can look back at the past. And the reason why I say that is we're taking photographs at this moment in time, and we're currently in 2020. And yes, it's relevant now. But I'm always thinking ahead. I'm thinking what's going to be like in 10 years' time, or 20 years' time, 50 years' time, or even 100 years' time when people are looking back at our photography today. So I get more of a buzz out of that. The thought of our photographs, these wee slices of time that we're taking, it's going to mean something to the future generation to look back on. They could be looking at the styles of clothing, or the way we live, the cars we drive, all of that. Do you know what I mean? So I love photography for we're capturing the present, you know, for future generations to look at. The thing about me with photography is I don't look at the gear. You know, the gear is relevant, there's no doubt about that, but I think sadly so many people are too interested in looking at, you know, the new cameras, or they need this camera, they need this particular lens, or the photography's not good enough because of the camera. Now, although the camera and the lens does play a part, the most important thing for me is your mindset, because you're the one who's creating the photographs, and that's what I love about this. It gives us all the chance to express ourselves through our photography. And a secret would be is not to take photographs to please other people, because I see so many doing that. They're taking photographs and they're wanting people to like them on Instagram or the Facebook, or even subscribe on YouTube, etc. But when you're taking photographs for other people, the sad thing is you're not going to get any enjoyment out of it, because once the like stops, once the bad comments come, you'll start to take that all on board. So, as I say, I've been documenting for about 35 years, and I have to say I've been shooting photographs for myself, and it's amazing. So what I would say, tell you, a tip for me is have fun with your photography. We're always going to be students of photography, regardless of how long we're at it, or our expertise. I know that I'm always going to be a student. Keep learning, keep having fun, and get out there and take some photographs. And as I say, I tell you, capture the present so those in the future can look back at the past.
My name is John Hughes and I'm a street photographer based in the UK. I was asked by Tim to explain what photography means to me. I've been shooting photography or street photography since I was about 12 years old, and it's all about freezing time for me, capturing moments that would otherwise be lost. Recently I've been using photography as a way to deal with anxiety and depression, so that when I'm out on the street and I'm shooting with a camera, I'm relaxed, I'm at ease, I don't feel any sort of stress, any anxiety, nothing. I'm just out being able to capture and being honoured to be able to capture just wonderful moments happening in front of me. Photography is a great way of being able to just freeze those moments that would otherwise be lost. And yeah, it's a real honour to take a great photograph of somebody, and that's what photography means to me.
Well, I think you'll agree we've had some truly fantastic responses there, and a big thank you to everyone that's taken part. I really do appreciate it. I just thought I'd explain what photography means to me as well. I wasn't really interested at all in photography until I was about the age of 15. I don't recall showing an interest to anyone in my family in photography, but my uncle was upgrading my uncle was a keen photographer, he was upgrading his kit, and he gave me all of his old equipment, which was a Miranda Sensor X camera, 35mm film camera, with a host of lenses and various accessories. And I took that camera and I went out and made pictures with it, and I've still got it to this day. I keep threatening actually I haven't used it for probably 30 odd years, and I keep threatening to put some film through it and just go out and use it again. So that's something I might do very soon in the future. But I think I've always had like a sort of mechanical mind, if you like. When I grew up and I started working, I became a apprentice motor mechanic. I've worked in the motor trade ever since. I've always enjoyed taking things apart and putting them back together, and I think that mechanical aspect is what really got me into the camera and into photography. I heard someone say recently that they were talking about cameras. I'm not really hugely into cameras, as you probably know. Gear is not the most important thing to me. But someone was speaking recently about the camera is where science and art meet. And I thought, yeah, that's really good, and that's probably why I took it up, because I've physically got something in front of me that I can twiddle knobs and buttons on and work out, what it's doing and how it's producing that image, and using those effects to create something that's hopefully artistic or pleasing to the eye. It's the whole reason that I enjoy photography. And one other thing that I heard someone say very recently that sort of resonated with me as well was that when they were asked, do you go everywhere with a camera? This guy said, and I think it was Matt Stewart said in an interview, I take a camera everywhere with me. I see things and I have this urge to point a black box at them and press a button and take them home with me. And I think that just about sums it up. When you get, if you're stood in front of a nice image, you want to keep that image so that you've got it forever. And obviously you can share it with your friends and loved ones as well. And it's just something else that, really resonates with me regarding photography. So it's been great having you along. Thanks ever so much for taking the time and trouble to take part in this little project. I'm going to leave the very last word on the subject to a professional photographer, a professional street photographer that's published several books and is also the host of a very good podcast called Hit the Streets. If you haven't listened to the podcast, I would definitely recommend it. And the very last thoughts on this subject are going to be with Valerie Jardin. Thanks ever so much. See you now.
Bonjour, this is Valerie Jardin. I'm what you'd call a street or urban photographer, although I photograph pretty much anything that moves me. But what I love the most and what I find the most beautiful in photography is capturing the beauty of everyday life. Photography has become an extension of me. This is the way I see. My camera is an extension of my vision, and I can't imagine a day without it in my life.